So here are my experiences of the books I ran in order. Hoard of the Dragon Queen was the first 5e book released, so seemed like the obvious place to start. It has a bit of a reputation of being written too soon before the actual 5e rules were fully fleshed out. As a beginner adventure, I had fun with it. My team had fun with it, but there are pockets of areas where you're on the road for months on end, and that's your first hurdle of how the hell do I fill that out? There's no real explanation for new DMs of what you're supposed to do, and it kind of suffers from being cultists after cultists, etc. There are dragons in it, there are a few decent monsters in it, but because it was the first adventure I ran, I wasn't overly confident about messing with it. I kind of tried to run it as best as I understood it. Any mistakes I made, I had to then try and remember to keep saying my version instead of the modules. Some things I misinterpreted and misunderstood, but by the end, I felt like I'd learnt so much. Now you're following a cult of the dragon who's trying to release Tiamat from the Nine Hells. I didn't really know who Tiamat was. I didn't really know anything about the Nine Hells. It was a lot to study, and when you've got other players who are perhaps more absorbed in reading the books about Tiamat, and they're saying, Chris, that's not right, that's not wrong, isn't Tiamat in so-and-so? I was just like, yeah, no, not in this book. I winged it and enjoyed it, and by the end I was ready to go into the continuation, Rise of Tiamat, which I enjoyed more. I think we all enjoyed more. More cultists, dragons one at a time, different areas. It expanded our knowledge of Faerun, our knowledge of what the different dragons do. We dropped in an airship, so I had to improvise much more. Backstories and secrets between players became much more relevant and to the front. And then you reach the final Well of Dragons fight, and there's not enough information. I've done a video about it, doing both those books, that I think helps. But going into that final chapter, as much as it was scary for the DM, we had a great moment pushing cards around tables. Who's going to fight who? Which faction's going to do what? A massive battle plan, and the whole thing was very memorable. We came out of Rise of Tiamat, and the next thing I decided to do was I looked at Storm King's Thunder and I looked at Princes of the Apocalypse and thought they seem too similar, so I want a complete change. So we went into the Underdark. Out of the Abyss starts with the DM having to know about 9 NPCs and all their different races and motivations. It is a lot. It has a cool start where all the adventurers are in prison. They have none of their stuff. They can't cast magic. That was cool. But it kind of suggests, they can go around the Underdark as they see fit. I wasn't going to have that. I did it chapter by chapter in the most obvious way that plotted around the Great Lake. I saw no point in boating zigzags across to all these places that I hadn't brushed up on. I started with chapter 1 and we're like, look, you keep walking and you get to this next nearest village. And about halfway through I read a variant ending. Rather than fighting somebody I can't say, I had the remaining players at the end choose a demon lord, and they fought out the real demon fight as the players watched on. And the real struggle with the Underdark is it's very difficult to keep describing stone tunnels in a different way for 9 months. I was much more confident at throwing in random encounters. It was easy. You get the setting. This is up ahead. Sometimes it's a matter of getting over a crevasse. How are you going to do it? Sometimes it's a rock fall. It's a monster. It's a good monster who you think's bad but isn't. Sometimes I even had graffiti on a stone or lore from the Rise of Tiamat, so the adventurers could get a call back to their old characters which they love. I found DMing it a bit of a slog. I don't look back on that one too favourably, and I don't want to run it again. Then we went back overworld to Dragon Heist. Now this can be twinned with Dungeons of the Mad Mage. I looked into those maps. I was not about to tackle that. I am still scared of Dungeons of the Mad Mage. Dragon Heist I've run twice. It may only be, 1 to 5 levels? I broke the mold second time. I was like, I don't care. You can do whatever level suits our playstyle. Dragon Heist is fantastic for open world but systematically handled adventures in Waterdeep. There are 4 different paths you can take about the overarching story, but I've just played the spring version both times, and I would potentially run it a 3rd time. I doubt I'll live long enough because there's other things I want to run. But Dragon Heist, big thumbs up. Rather than going into Mad Mage, we decided to go into Curse of Strad next. I would say this is the best module so far. The area on this is limited because it's surrounded by fog. So it's open world, but you're contained. You're pinging about from place to place in a smallish area, and it's just easier to run. Apart from Castle Ravenloft, it is a maze on a maze on a maze, but you can kind of get around that if you wanted by explaining it as a maze, and you feel all turned around and just do your best really, the players won't notice. What's cool about that is that you do a tarot reading at the beginning and you can replay Strad and have all the key locations and weapons in different places in the campaign, so it feels fresh again to you as a DM. I let a player pick a homebrewed character from the Hollow Knight game, Homebrew, and the moves that it got from the video game just meant that it took Strad out way too soon. Now, he's since realised he misunderstood, and I probably could have turned into a bat and escaped my death. So it was a bit of an anticlimax. Another DM mistake of mine, yeah, I admit. But I'm one of these kind of, look, the cards land where they may. Whatever I've given you, I live with. Because I do throw magic weapons in here and there, because I think it's fun. It's fun for me, it's fun for the players. But yeah, it can break the game, but so be it. So I'm a bit half and half with that regret. From Curse of Strad, I went into Tomb of Annihilation. It is literally a huge continent that you have to have an idea of all the locations on. But you know what? I really enjoyed it. A change from Strad to a sunny climb. I mean, yeah, I would run that again. All my party got killed before the end boss, and then a second group of parties got killed. I was like, look, you can't just keep going party after party. You are dead. So we didn't technically finish that one, although the way I see it, that was your finish. You all died. I usually have this rule where if there's one player alive, you can keep going and bring in other characters. But if you all get killed, you're dead. But even the bringing players back and introducing new characters over and over, eventually you were in a tomb where nobody else could get in. So it was impossible to just have another 3rd or 4th party wandering around inside at that point. Anyway, it's good to teach the players that sometimes they don't end up being the hero. From there, we went on to Descent into Avernus. I on the verge of under-prepped before I started running it, because it starts in Baldur's Gate, and I was like, yeah, I'm aware of the cities on top of Faerun, I get it, the known ones. But then when we got to the Abyss, I kind of felt like I was under-researched, and I was starting to not even get to the end of the module in my research before running it, so I didn't really know the end, and there are a lot of endings. So when I'd started to get more confident as a DM, I'd start to get more lazy and think, yeah, I can do this. I can handle any module. And the patches on my end behind the screen started to show. But as you're running the finale of one adventure, you're starting to read the next one, and it's kind of mixing and matching, and it's a lot for a DM. Plus, you know, these days I'm running a YouTube channel and I'm trying to make videos about a 3rd book. So from Descent into Avernus, we are currently running Strixhaven, the most patchy, underwritten, debatable whether that's good or bad module so far. I'm literally having to buy extra supplements just for the inspiration to pepper between the written parts, because the written parts have, and 3 weeks later, this happens, and it's like, that doesn't make sense. We need character progression between those instances. I'm enjoying it, it's different, but it really falls heavily on the DM to have a picture in his head. And if Harry Potter wasn't released, I don't know what we'd all think of as inspiration. So that's where we are on the main things that I've run. Loads of one-shots, loads of homebrew, but I do enjoy their products. There's always a con, there's always some pros. I do believe in reading the book cover to cover before you even begin. On that read through, make notes, boil them down, so you understand the main thrust right through to the end. So if a bad guy's right at the beginning, you don't just kill him off because you need him for the finale. I haven't yet done that, but that is a pitfall I could see people doing. So the only book that niggles me out of those is Out of the Abyss. Everyone enjoyed it. I found it a little bit of a slog. I have plenty more to run, and it's Wild Beyond the Witchlight next. So I'm having, cursory glances and read-throughs of that while I'm preparing Strixhaven as well. I would love to do walkthrough guides to every single one of those books and more in the future. Hopefully to help others with that little bit of an experience that I now have. What's your favourite adventures? What do you hope to run? Let me know in the comments. Goodbye.